Hi guys, I'm Zachary and welcome to Behind the Bottle. Today we're talking about this. This is Tonic Water. It's a bitter yet sweet and carbonated beverage that pairs perfectly well with the botanicals of gin. And the ingredient list is pretty short. Carbonated water, sugar, citric acid, natural flavors including quinine. Quinine is actually the key to what makes tonic water tonic water. This is where quinine comes from. This is the bulk of the cinchona tree.
Cinchona is a native to the Andes of South America. It's in fact the national tree of Peru. But how did the bulk of this tree become an essential ingredient behind the ball? Well, for that, we gotta go back before quinine was even discovered. Talk about the history of carbonation. For carbonation, we need to begin with Joseph Priestley, born in 1733 near Leeds, England. He grew up as an inquisitive son to a family of wool cloth makers. He had not wanted to follow his family's business and instead wanted to get a proper education. However, due to the Act of Conformity in 1662, he wasn't able to attend any English universities. Instead, attending the Dissenting Academy in Daventry, Northamptonshire is where he received his education in philosophy, science, languages, and literature. Despite being known as a furious freethinker around religion, early work was actually in the sciences. He befriended Benjamin Franklin in 1765, who encouraged him to work in electricity and gases. In his time, he published 6 volumes on what he referred to as the gases, including the discovery of oxygen in 1774. And most importantly to our story, Priestley thought this world of gases could help many of the problems of the 18th century urban life. He believed that carbonated water could help provide medicinal benefits for those suffering from various fevers, including scurvy. He even discovered how to successfully carbonate beverages with a pump and agitation with a liquid under pressure. Many people use his discoveries to create different gizmos. For example, in 1775, Dr. John Mulvaneuth created the gasogene, a device made of 2 globes surrounded by a wicker sleeve. Now this is a precursor to the soda siphon and kind of the soda stream. Meanwhile, there's other people experimenting with this stuff, particularly one Jacob Schweppe. He was born in Germany in 1740. It was clear from an early age that Jacob would become a craftsman, as people saw considerable talent in him. At the age of 25, he moved to Geneva, where he began his life as a watchmaker. Something he saw in the mountains around Germany always stuck in his mind: mineral water. The tallest mountains around Germany were famous for the prescriptions from doctors to cure common ailments. The town of Seltzers had a mineral spring called Seltzerwasser that is carbonated. It has been bottled for over 800 years and sent all around. In fact, this is where the origin of the generic word seltzer comes from. Schweppe had seen the research done by Priestley, decided to build upon it. He started experimenting with carbonating waters in 1767. He decided to give up his watchmaking enterprise and focus on the quest to improve the carbonating apparatus he had created. He used the excess water from experiments for good and gave it free of charge to local doctors to provide to the poorest patients. Just like most things here we talk about, his quality product became popular and people insisted on paying him. The water he was making was just as carbonated, if not more, as natural mineral water. By 1783, his machines were no longer just small experiments, but now capable of commercial production on a larger scale. But Schweppe was getting too busy to do this alone. With demand from all over Europe, he needed help, and he reached out to one of his friends, who he had taught to operate the machine. But his friend realized that no one else was doing what Schweppe was doing, saw it as a way to make a lot of money. He approached a noted engineer in Geneva, Nicholas Paul. Paul saw what was going on and created a poor-performing machine for Schweppe's friend, and then created a better machine for himself. Paul then publicly announced he was creating carbonated water in direct competition with Schweppe. Now, Schweppe didn't want to see his business falter, so he approached Paul with a proposition in April 1790. He saw the strength of Paul's engineering skills and that they could be powerful working together. Paul agreed. Paul also brought his father, another experienced engineer, to help out. They also knew that they needed help with the medicinal side, and they approached a respected pharmacist who had also been experimenting with producing medicated water. His name, Henry Albert Gose, who was joined in July 1790 to help bolster the reputation of the company. They began manufacturing water inspired by natural sources, such as the waters of Pyrmont, Bouzang, Cromile, Vals, Seidschuts, Balearic, Passé, and more. They decided for complete control over the carbonation of water, they would only use distilled water as their base. The focus now was on expansion. Schweppe decided he would lead a new factory in the grand metropolitan city of London. He arrived in the middle of a hull swindle in only 1792 and quickly created a factory not too far from the River Thames. The market in London was much more competitive than in Geneva. There were street vendors who sold their own on-demand carbonated water, but Schweppes saw that the level of carbonation was very low. But because the market was well established, even with a superior product, they struggled to break in. Coming up on his second year in London, his partners in Geneva told him to give it up and come home. It was too expensive for the group and wasn't as fruitful as they had hoped. But Schweppe wasn't done with his life in London, so he kindly told his partners that the partnership needed to end. He got the London business, and they got to keep the Swiss business. He was now free to do what he wanted to do on his own terms. But it was still difficult. Schweppe had to bounce around from factory to factory until he finally settled near Cavendish Square in 1794. That same year, he got endorsements from famous industrialists and was finally picking up steam. But Schweppe, now being at the age of 58, was getting ready for retirement. In 1798, he sold 3/4 of the business to 3 men from Jersey, while keeping 1/4 of the company to himself and his daughter Colette. Once he had confidence in the new men running the company, he decided to fully retire, only a nice profit. He returned back to Switzerland, where he died wealthy yet content in 1821. The new owners of J. Schweppe & Company were all in on expansion and growth. They decided the best way to grow the business was to create a network of regional factories. The railroad had yet to come to England, so this was the easiest way to create a national interest in the company. It was clear that no other company could beat the quality and price of their water. They also had in the back of their mind international expansion. But after 25 years of growing the company, the Jersey men were ready to retire. They sold it to the majority shareholder and managing director Robert Brohier, his brother R.J. Brohier, and Annesley Sparks in 1824. They wanted to take the company in a different direction as they saw the changing palates of the times. New medical breakthroughs were coming each and every day, and they knew that basic sparkling water wasn't going to cut it. They continued to try and market and sell the brand as medicine in mind until they were ready to retire in 1834. 2 new owners from different backgrounds took over the business: John Kempt Welch, a wine merchant, and William Evell, a silversmith. Their connections allowed the company to receive a royal warrant recognition from the English royal family. They decided to play into the marketing and introduce some new products. Immediately, they introduced Schweppes Aerated Lemonade in 1835, a first of its kind carbonated lemonade. With the prosperity that both Britain and Schweppes were seeing, they were ready to show it off at the Great Expedition. The Great Expedition was built in Hyde Park, a magnificent glass building that could be seen for miles and miles. It was so big that many of the trees of Hyde Park ended up being included inside the building. It attracted millions of visitors where anyone could go, from A-list celebrities such as Charles Darwin and Charles Dickens to even the lower class. Prince Albert wanted everyone to see the glory that the British Empire had to offer the world through its thriving world of ingenuity and industrialization. Schweppes wanted to try something new. As one of the exhibitors in the 18-acre Crystal Palace, they wanted to be the sole supplier of refreshments at the exhibition. They paid £5,500, an equivalent of £632 today, to be the beverage sponsor of the exhibition. This is really the first time a company had sponsored such an event. The popularity of the exhibition grew, and Schweppes needed to grow its product line. Around 1858, they were developing 2 new products, a ginger ale and a tonic water. They had become aware of 2 French researchers, Pierre-Joseph Peltier and Joseph Caventou, who isolated quinine in 1820. Quinine is an extract of the South American cinchona tree bark. Cinchona bark had been used to South American locals to treat chills, which we now know as a symptom of malaria. It was developed into a first-of-its-kind tonic water, which was just sweetener, quinine, and carbonated water. Schweppes wasn't the first to create a quinine soda water. That goes to Erasmus Bond, who patented the first aerated tonic liquid in 1858, which was simply soda water spiked with quinine. It never really took off because quinine is incredibly bitter, so adding some sugar, some sweetener to it is a must. By the 1870s, tonic water was all the rage in England, especially when paired with a London dry gin. It was a budget remedy for different ailments, partly because London dry gin was also cheaper than imported Holland gins, and because Schweppes was known for its accessible price point. Their popularity only grew from there as they expanded into international markets and became a popular source of seltzers, sodas, and mixers. By the 1930s, Schweppes was making cola, sparkling fruit juices, and more. What about the modern Schweppes we know today? Well, Schweppes began pouring into the American market in 1953, when they opened up a bottling plant, accelerating the popularity of gin and tonics, including being featured in the James Bond novel Dr. No in 1958. 1969, Schweppes merged with confectionery company Cadbury to become Cadbury Schweppes. They also bought Canada Dry outright and got a 30% stake in Dr. Pepper in 1984. In 2000, they bought Snapple, Mystic Juice, Stewart's Fountain Classics, and Allstate Cola. By 2007, they bought the rest of Dr. Pepper and 7-Up. They decided to split the company up, keeping soft drinks separate from confectionaries. Schweppes then became the Dr. Pepper Snapple Group in 2008. 10 years later, Keurig Green Mountain announced an $18.7 billion acquisition deal. In the process, they will rename to Keurig Dr. Pepper and will become publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange. They now own other beverage brands from Crush to Hawaiian Punch, Roses, particularly known for the grenadine, and many, many more. One of the big differences between tonic water of the past and tonic water of today is the amount of quinine used in it. It is greatly reduced. Quinine content is regulated in both the US and Europe to 83 and 100 milligrams per liter, respectively. Meanwhile, the quinine therapeutic dose for malaria is around 600 milligrams. Quinine used to be prescribed to prevent and treat nighttime leg cramps, but the FDA currently does not recommend it, as prolonged use can cause severe bleeding, kidney damage, irregular heartbeats, and severe allergic reaction. So if you do ever try to make your own tonic water, please be aware of how much quinine or cinchona bulk you're going to put in it. Gin and tonics today are now a category that is also being constantly played around with. Homemade tonic syrups are popular in craft bars, or like I was saying, you can even make them at home. For example, Jeffrey Morgenthaler even has a tonic syrup in the ball book. I'm going to repeat this. Please, please, please be mindful if you make one at home. But good news for you, there are plenty of other brands out there, including Schweppes, Fever Tree, Fentimans, Le Tribute, East Imperial, Betty Buzz, Strong Water, and so many more. Tonic syrups are also available from brands like Jack Rudy Cocktail Co., Portland Syrups, Small Hand Foods, Libre & Co., El Guapo Bitters, and even SodaStream. Now, there's a lot of different tonics out there to try. I have personally found my favorite to be from Fever Tree. So, like, this is the all premium tonic water. Plenty of companies now also make like other flavored, so this is like elderflower, which is pretty good. These are widely available at a decent cost, and honestly, my favorite thing, they come in these small bottles, which are perfect for putting other ingredients in once you're done with it. I usually put my like cocktail syrups in this. The one I don't have with me today is the Mediterranean tonic water from Fever Tree, which I especially like since it goes really well with the contemporary gins I have in my collection. I've also tried the tonic syrup recipe from Serious Eats, and while I enjoy the flavor of that one, I'll be honest, I prefer the simplicity of a pre-made one. I don't go through tonic water super often, so this is just an easier thing, plus the addition of having nice glass bottles around. So now, go enjoy gin and tonic, or maybe learn more about the Luxardo family and maraschino liqueurs and cherries in last week's episode of Behind the Bottle. My name is Zachary. Thank you for watching. If you liked it, click the like button below and also hit subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one, or maybe on my TikTok where you can learn to make drinks inspired by today's video. Thank you all. Have a great one.